Hi, Alex.
Hi, Jan. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
How are you? How was your week?
I don't really remember this week too well, but everything's fine. The birthday party is over and in the past now, so I can start moving on with my life.
I had a parenting insecurity this week.
Shocking. Yes. I know.
Sometimes it happens to me that, I look at, other parents and I see what they're doing. And it's kind of make me feel insecure. Maybe I'm not doing enough for my kid, and I want to give them everything.
I think you're doing different things for your kids than a lot of other parents do. The thing that Jan had trouble with especially was the recognition that other parents take their kids far away more often than we do.
We don't.
We don't travel
Why
very
don't we
far.
do it?
It's a misery to put the kids in the car and drive them long distances.
Yes,
and then when
they're three.
They're
So
three. And then when they're far away, if the shit hits the fan, and that can literally happen when you have twins, then you're far away from home, and it's frustrating and it's worrying. I will point out two things, though, on the plus side of us. One is we do a lot of other very creative things that are different from taking them to different attractions in the distance. And two is, once a year, we take them to the other side of the planet. And that makes up for all of the trips to, Legoland or whatever that we may not do.
We will take them to Legoland, but not
eventually.
at 3.
Yes.
So remember our dilemma from last week at Target?
Yes, of course.
Yes. Should we comment on a couple that was in front of us in line? And risk being told to mind their own business. They were buying teething gel, which is not allowed for babies, and we didn't know what to do. So I posed that question into the Gay Fathers group. We got a lot of responses.
Really?
And let me tell you, Alex.
I was wrong. Was I wrong?
You are in the 1%.
Of course I'm in the 1%.
You're in the 1% who will tap on that man's shoulder and tell them, listen, this is dangerous for your baby.
So did the other ones think I'm an asshole, or did they just not have the balls?
I'll tell you
to
in a
do
minute. They just use 4 letters to describe you.
Wait, shit? I'm a shit?
MYOB.
Mind your own business?
Yes. 98% voted for not saying anything.
Right.
And there was another 1% who said, teething gel is a parent placebo anyway, so let them have it, which means, not saying anything. Well, so basically, 99% say don't say anything.
Now, those of you who don't know me don't know the fact that 99% being against me has virtually no impact on me whatsoever. And I will say this, okay? And I feel that I should, and I hope I don't think we'll lose listeners, because our listeners are open people who accept the idea of disagreement. Look, I actually think that if you do it kindly and you do it without being, pushy, which I don't think that I did, you are serving people around you. Minding your own business is a really interesting term to use during, for example, the Me Too period. Should we really be minding our own business, or should we be caring about the things that are going on around us and being kind when we have something to say, but saying something? Sitting quietly and expecting other people to take care of themselves, I'm not sure is the answer either.
I think that in our case, we were kind of freaked out because we didn't know. It's not like that people actually look it up, because you see teething gel, you hear about teething gel.
Right.
So we didn't know about it, and then our doctor told us, and we were panicked, and then I read about it. I read that babies died. Babies died because of teething gel. It has some sort of anesthesia or whatever that if you put too much, it slips forever.
That's not good.
Yeah. So we didn't want to take the risk, and we were thinking that we were kind of nice.
But hey, you know what? Thank you for your feedback. I hope some of it was nasty, but if not, there's always another time.
It was mean. Gay people can be mean. Especially on the internet.
I never knew.
Yes. Today we're going to talk about gay dad groups. And I think it's equally as important for the dads as it is to the babies or to the kids. It's good for the kids to be exposed to their families like theirs, of course, but it's also good for the dads because we want to be able to discuss, bottoming
Excuse me?
and men.
Bottoming in men? What?
Stuff that gay men discuss between themselves.
I see. It's interesting. Okay.
Is there anything else that we discuss only with gay people that we don't do with straight people?
I discuss that stuff with straight people too.
No, you don't
I
discuss
do.
bottoming, do you?
Or topping or whatever, sure.
Topping,
Sure.
you discuss pizza topping.
I'm an open book. But listen, I have to tell you that I thought that this was a really good interview. I think he's a great interviewee.
We're talking about John Ireland, who is the president of Pop Lock Club.
Yeah. And I had a few things that, I thought that obviously the discussion of the idea of the group, of the club, is particularly valuable because one of the things we've talked about consistently in each one of these episodes until now is, we complain a lot about parenting. It's one of the things that helps us get up in the morning is the ability to complain. And you need support. You need other people around you who have experience or are going through the same thing that you are. Parenting alone in an isolated way is, I would say, it's not only painful, not only difficult, it verges on dangerous. You need to have people to connect to. And some people are lucky and they have parents and large families around them and other friends that have kids of approximately the same age. If
We
you
don't.
Well, we don't have much of that. We've actually developed some of those friends.
Friends.
Recently.
I talked about family.
Yeah. And if you don't have that stuff, this is a tremendous opportunity for people.
Yeah. And Pop Lock Club, for those who don't know, it's the biggest gay dad group in LA. So we talked to John about the nature of the group, but we also talked about how to form this kind of group in your city if you don't have one.
Right. It's like a Tupperware club, only, babies.
And John also talked about fostering adopting, because he adopted 4 kids and fostered 6.
I wanted to talk about that too. I think that we've talked so far in all of the episodes with people whose I think all of their parenting has been at least somewhat different from ours in terms of the way their children came into their lives.
Yes.
And what I've taken away from that is, the differences are, at least to me, feel so big that when I hear about fostering, I can't even get my head around what that experience must be like.
Yeah.
We had our kids were with us within a minute of being born. And I say to myself, wait, what would happen if my children became my children when they were 4 months old, a year old, 2 years old? And I can't quite get my head around what that must be like. It's so different, or it seems so different to me.
Yes. So I think we'll go straight to the interview. It's very interesting. John is a charming man. And we want to invite you to contact us at hello@daddysqr.com if you have any questions, or do you need any advice, or do you want to criticize us?
Or criticize me. But
You're
also,
in the 1%.
I'm in the 1%. But also, we encourage you. We really would love your help in telling us what you're looking for on this podcast. We have absolutely no limit of nerve. We will go and ask anyone to be our guest if we think that it can be interesting and valuable to our listeners. Our listenership, which is up. We're very happy about that.
Yes.
And by the way, speaking of our listenership being up, in addition to contacting us at hello@daddysqr.com with your ideas or criticisms of me, I would also please ask you to give us 5 stars on your podcast app, or write us comments. We would love that.
Review
us.
Yes, review is very important. Okay, so let's go to John. Yeah,
let's do it.
Good morning.
Good morning. We started.
Yes, we are starting now.
We may have started before. We can't promise you that nothing will just find its way in.
All right.
Yeah.
How are you doing, John?
I'd like to close.
Yes, please close the door. We're recording this at the hotel.
In undisclosed location.
They blindfolded me. There was like some burlap sack over my head, and they spirited me in here.
John, to me, it's an honor to have you. You're the president of Popluck Club.
I left my crown at home. I didn't come in the full regalia today.
We never travel without some crowns and tiaras, so we'll set you up.
It comes with this long train of beautiful robes, but I didn't bring them.
I want you to tell us a little bit more, because we're going to focus about clubs of dads around the country, not necessarily in LA, but in general. So I want you to tell us a little bit, like some sort of a background about Popluck.
Sure. Okay. So the group was founded about 20 years ago. We're actually just celebrating 2 decades of the club, and I came along probably about 4 or 5 years into the group. So I'm not a founder, but we've been very fortunate to have a number of the dads that started the whole thing still involved on our board and coming to meetings, facilitating our monthly meetings.
It?
There were a group of guys that came together, and they named it Popluck Club, like Potluck Club, because we bake our best casseroles and try to impress each other. Sometimes we're all disappointed because that's slipped a little bit, but we all bring something. It's started in a park in Beverly Hills around a tree, and nobody had any children. It was just plans, plans for children.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, a lot of hopes and dreams. So that was a potluck, which we still maintain. We've done it every month since 1998. Wow. And essentially, we've always focused on the prospective dad just as much as the dads with kids. So about half of our members have kids, and the other half are on the way. And we always have new people. Every month, they're new prospective dads.
When you joined, there already were kids, or?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I came in about year 5. My husband and I had been looking at parenting for a long time. We met in college, like back in early 90s, 91. And then we got married in 93. It took about 10 years before we were really ready. I mean, we were researching it. We were kind of taking turns being interested. Like I was really gung-ho about it. And my husband was kind of like less interested. We were both, graduating from college and establishing our careers. My husband went to law school, so we were busy. We were doing all these things. I started a job right out of college as a teacher, so I was really engaged myself. And then eventually, we found Popluck, and it was probably 2 or 3 years after that we actually became parents. And that's very typical. It'll be a number of years that our members typically are researching, and heavy research, like internet research, asking everybody we meet, finding gay dads out there in the world and asking them everything we can get from them to find a community. So that's what Popluck was for us, even though we didn't have kids for the first 3 or 4 years.
Is there any kind of national organization?
No, there are some great advocacy organizations. The Family Equality Council, known as FEC. Because once you get big, you get a great acronym, right? No, the Family Equality Council has, I think they've been around just as long as Popluck. A couple of different names along the way, but their leadership from the East Coast, I think they're based in Boston, has intertwined with when we get plugged into the national and international community. So there's an International Family Equality Day that Popluck Club celebrates with Family Equality Council. We're the local hosts. We put on a party in the park just below the Hollywood sign, and people bring their dogs and their kids, and we have food and bouncy house and all kinds of fun stuff.
Gotta have a bouncy house.
That's right. And really, the point is you have to have a photo opportunity. So we've got the Hollywood sign and kids bouncing, and then you've got pictures from like Lake Geneva, and they've got the fountain, and all over the world. The Eiffel Tower, and then you got that Paris group, and so it's a photo op for an International Family Equality
downtown
Day.
Tehran. I haven't done that one yet.
I haven't been, but I'm sure that there's a good photo op there.
You go first.
So there are groups all over, but we are loosely affiliated. There's no sort of membership that's official, but we stay connected because we refer people to each other. This is a mobile global world. People move, and so often we'll get calls from people who've just come from another city or they're going somewhere, and we help make introductions to other groups.
Great.
Interesting. How do you manage between being a dad and your job, which you told me about earlier? As an actor and help. You say what you do.
So I would be remiss to not include that I'm an actor because I'm somebody who lives in Los Angeles. It seems like everybody seems to hide that, and then we just admit it. I work as an actor. I was stage trained and I work mostly in commercials now. But the reality is most of the money comes in through nonprofit.
I have to
consulting.
I totally see the commercials.
Do you?
You see the hair on the face?
Yeah.
You are so, you could
You know what that means? That means you could pay attention to me for about 30 seconds. That'd be about the max.
That's longer than most people's attention span. I think you're doing fine.
It's the zone. That's a good zone to be in. And I can remember any script for 30 seconds. You know? So I'm golden with that. No, I came to town and had a lot of luck with commercials.
Got it.
So I still do theater, which I love, and I do TV and film. Nothing more fun than going to film festivals with a film. That's been my real joy here in LA over the last 20 years. But the reality is I also have some marketable skills outside of the entertainment industry, like with nonprofit organizations. So that comes in handy with Poplar Club. But I also work as a consultant to a handful of nonprofits, helping them with board governance and major giving and capital campaigns, that sort of thing.
So how does this and your job being a dad to 4 kids?
Oh, God, really?
4.
Yes, 4.
Wow. Was it an accident?
Well, we didn't give birth to any of them. So the reality is we were a bit reactive here. Our first child came to us in 2005. And she was born in 2005, so she was a 4-month-old. We fostered and adopted. And we knew that we wanted to not just foster kids where we would help them out for a while and then they would go away. Right. That was going to be hard for us emotionally. Right. So my husband and I said, we'd prefer not to do that. And every time a social worker would call and say, hey, there's this child available, we'd really get down to logistics. Right. Again, my husband's an attorney, so we're like, have the parental rights been terminated? And how about how many foster placements have there been? How old is the child? All of these factors that you can kind of minimize your trauma if you're not willing to let a child go.
Because you never know, right?
When you're fostering, you really don't know. Because in Los Angeles County, we're dual certified to foster and adopt. So you have to be ready to take a kid who might be there for 6 months.
Right.
The reality is my wonderful social worker, who's remained a great friend of ours over the years, she gave us all 4 of our children. She called one day and said, there's an 18-month-old that she's not going to be able to stay with you forever, but she needs a loving home right now. And it's a really emotional set of facts I won't go into fully, but she had been abused, and so the police had removed her, and she was sitting in a hospital room, in an emergency room, and she said, just come on by and meet her. Social workers are tricky.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So we did, and we fell in love with this little girl. And she came to live with us in West Hollywood. We lived a couple, blocks off of the main drag here in Boys Town and Melrose and Crescent Heights. And we took her off to the West Hollywood Park every couple of days, and we swam. We taught her how to swim. She learned how to speak with us. We baked cookies. It was the summer of 2005. And we got a call a couple months later, it was 2 months after she came to us. Guess what? Mom, who is in jail, was pregnant, and she just gave birth. So there's another baby. We're bringing him over. We're like,
At that point, you knew she's already.
We didn't know that until it was actually a couple of days before the birth. We knew that she was
But at that point, did you know that you were going to adopt her?
Well, the social workers had prepared us to do a karma thing. She said, "This is your karma kid. You're going to put this out into the world and help this child, and it's going to make you a better parent." But you're not going to be able to finalize an adoption. And then it turns out, like a couple months into it, they're like, the family members are not stepping forward. So it looks like you may be able to. Oh, and there's a sibling. So then there's this little baby brother who came along in July. And our social worker, who I mentioned, is very savvy. She knew that it was very possible these kids would go back. And we had accepted this. Right. I mean, logically, not emotionally, but we knew this was a possibility. She said, there's another child who I know will not be reunified. This kid's available in a month. So that would mean you'd have 3. And I know we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment over a garage in West Hollywood. I mean, we were really tight in there. And she said, but this child would be yours. And I don't want you to have to give the other 2 up and then have you at home alone with no children. Mm-hmm. So we kind of bit the bullet. We're like, okay. We'll have 3 kids. 3 kids in diapers. So we had, as of July, I guess, mid-July, we had a 20-month-old, a newborn, a 20-month-old, and a 4-month-old.
Okay.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
My husband would come home from work and I would say, okay, I'm going to go sit in the car and listen to NPR for a couple of minutes. And I would just go down there and cry while he was upstairs with the other criers. It was a very trying summer. And then by Labor Day, it was so sad, we said goodbye to the two siblings. And the reality is we thought we were saying goodbye forever, and I secretly packed a little family photo of all of us in their luggage and dropped them off at their aunt's home. She was adopting them, and she and I had some conflict at some visits where like I had to give her the diaper bag and leave the room because this is her baby she was going to change, right? So it was hard, but basically she said, and they speak Spanish, and so do we, but our Spanish has gotten a lot better. She said to us, "Do you have a photo?" Right when we were dropping them off, and I sheepishly unzipped the suitcase and handed to her, and she brought down the picture of the Virgin Mary from the wall and put that picture up right next to their fridge. And that just made us start sobbing, right? But about a month later, six weeks later, she called and said, "They're asking for you. Come on by." And then there were some birthdays to celebrate, and then there was Christmas, so we took them to see Santa. We're like their uncles. They are now 15 and 13.
Wow.
They were our newborn and our toddler. So they're not our children, and it was actually this amazing experience that I only had the strength to endure because of Potluck Club and because of our social worker. It actually changed me as a parent. It made me a better parent, made me sort of anticipate the needs of kids over what my emotions might be in the moment.
And so the one that stayed with you is your first out of
Yes.
4.
Yeah, that's Emma. Emma's 13 now. So yeah, she was 4 months old, and
Alex is there.
I'm just passing out here because there's so many children involved, and we only have the 2.
Yeah, we can't handle 2.
But okay.
And you've got twins, right?
Yeah, and I brought my parents from Israel to help us during
Yeah,
holidays.
Smart.
Yeah. Yeah, we fly people.
I'd like to
around
borrow
the
them if they have any extra time.
They're spoken for. No. We like you and all, but no.
Now, so I had friends who were adopting kids, and suddenly they get an email, and their mom was either in jail or using drugs, and they get an email saying, "Hi, I want to see my kids. I've been clean for 100 days. I'm begging you to see my kids." And I would say if I was the parent, I would be, it's frightening because here's the option, the door that you choose whether to to open or not, to a possibility where she decides that she is going to war.
Well, this comes up a lot in Potluck. We talk about this because this is the fear. There is, in general, a traditional approach to adoption of privacy and secrecy and closed. Just the nature has been very closed, and that's changed. And really, as children's rights have come up, like children have a right to know who their family are, right? And if we are agents of cover-up for them, right, that's not probably going to form the basis of a great parental relationship. So what is really the new best practices, and I'm involved with a lot of national nonprofits that work on, foster and adoption kids and their right to their own information. Really that we become the stewards of that information for them. And they're our children. We want what's best for them. And actually, psychologically, what is best for them is to understand their story, their origin story, the way they came into the world. And even though it's sometimes peppered with challenging facts, I mean, there are hard realities about some of our kids' origin stories. It is our job as their parents to introduce that at the right time. Psychologically for them, developmentally, what they can understand, and always have them understand that it is not less than, because actually the world has always seen adoption as a less than, secret, something you can tease someone on the playground. Every now and then we're watching a movie in the theater and somebody, says, "Oh, because you're adopted," and that's the punchline of a joke, right? Like that would be less than. My kids have experienced that too with me in the room, and I watch them for a reaction, and then we discuss it. That's where we hit pause and we say, wow, why would they make a joke like that? Is that funny? What's that from? And it used to be a playground sneer, you're adopted, that sort of thing. Well, we have raised our kids to know that adoption is a beautiful thing because it created our family. That's how we found each other. And so there's some societal baggage that's always going to come. But this information about a birth mom or birth dad or with siblings, like, do we have the same dad? Like,
Right.
maybe we get that information, maybe we don't get that information. Through foster care, you don't always get much information, but to be assiduous as that steward of the information, to find as much as we can when we can. So when we have an opportunity for a visit, or that we would talk with that relative or that biological parent, I have always tipped the scales over to, this may make me uncomfortable, but I am going to gather that information, protect my children from it until they're ready, but bring that into a safe space where I can keep it for them, because it belongs to them. It's not information I'll share with any stranger either. It belongs to my children. So I take that very seriously. I think there's an awakening or an opening of adoption. Not that in that scenario they would have access to the children, because they're not their children.
Right.
And legally, really, there is no way they're going to fight and get the kids back. The law is very clear. Once an adoption is finalized, it's done. It doesn't mean those parents won't show up somehow. It doesn't mean they won't find each other through DNA matching at some point sooner than you'd guess, or through Facebook, or through an older sibling who was adopted somewhere else and then comes to find them. Right. So there are definitely things that happen, and we have to be educated. We have to be prepared for them.
Well, so I have this theory about why a lot of this has changed. And it's all thanks to the gays. It's not all it's not all thanks to the gays, but the gays helped. I think that when I was a kid, the you're adopted thing would have been a thing that you say as a kind of a taunt, absolutely, and any other kind of unusual. Hey, I think there was one kid in my elementary school class who was of divorced parents. The mother was a divorcee. I love the word divorcee, by the way. It's just awesome. But anyway, but now, right, what's changed so much is because a lot of people are divorced, because of single mother and single father families, and because of the gays, right, and because of 20 or 30 or 40 years of that coming out into the open, families are just weirder things than they used to be. And there's no way around it, right? In any given classroom, the idea that there's such a large majority of kid with biological mom, dad, everyone lives together, everything's the same, those percentages have dropped dramatically. And I think that while that may have some downsides for kids in general, I don't know, it certainly means that all the kids from the previously termed unusual family situations aren't as unusual as they used to be.
That's right. And popular culture reflects that to the rest of the world, where maybe this hasn't penetrated through to the smallest little insular communities across the country. There are certainly still small towns where it'd be hard to find any out gay people.
Sure.
Or kids who have a non-traditional family, although they're there, they might be more closeted.
Yeah.
Popular culture has done wonders, because these next generations have grown up with it as just a matter of fact that there's diversity.
Yeah.
I want to just step back a little bit and try to recommend fathers who are living in cities that don't have these kinds of... We're blessed in LA that we have that. But let's say, I don't know,
Tulsa.
Apparently we have a lot of listeners from Dublin. So hello Dublins.
Dublin, Ireland?
Dublin, Ireland,
oh,
yeah.
Terrific.
So let's say that in Dublin, Ireland, for example, they don't have it. What do you recommend that they do in order to at least start it?
I am surprised how easy it is to start sort of a grassroots organic thing like this, because where there's a need, right, people will show up. So in Dublin, in Tulsa, really anywhere, I think it is to find a tree in a park, put out some blankets, bring some food, and then get it into the paper somehow so people understand that's what you're doing, or put up a sign, or talk through local networks, coffee shop, flyers, that sort of thing. I am constantly surprised how many people there are who want to start families. And in fact, because we have a family that looks different, our children are African American, we're Caucasian, we're very publicly a family, a diverse family. So no matter where we are, whether we want to be educating anybody at the time or not, people will come and ask. And not just gay people, but
Yeah.
like straight people who are interested in fostering or adoption or parenting or anything. So
Or they're just curious as hell because they don't understand how that happened.
they're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, we get a lot of that.
We get a lot of it.
We do.
The triangle, the dad to kids,
Yes.
to
Yeah.
dad to kids. Right?
Yeah.
You're dad. You have 2 kids. Like people come
Well,
to me
right.
at the gym.
Yeah.
Random.
Yeah, it's sprung out of
let's-
children,
yeah,
sprung out
but
of my
It's not
ear.
about us.
It's all about me.
The reality is that this could happen in any city, that you're just visible. You just put your stake in the grass and say, I'm here and this is something we're doing. And what is remarkable is the goodwill that comes from it, because people who never thought they would find their way to you pretty quickly. You have to be creative to get the word out. Like Potluck
Yeah.
Club had a kind of, I think we had a crisis about 10 years ago where people didn't really know who we were, and there were a bunch of new gay dads, but they'd never heard of Potluck.
Right.
So we did a bus shelter campaign. We actually did pictures
Wow.
of dads holding up our kids, and we put them in bus shelters, so they were visible not only to the people getting on the bus, but on the streets.
Right.
And because it's such a driving culture, it's millions of hits, right?
Mm-hmm.
The impressions we were having from these bus shelter ads, which were pretty affordable. Then we elevated them up to the banners on the street lights.
Right.
We partnered with other nonprofits who could get a better discount. We're a nonprofit, but we could partner with another museum or other sort of institution and use their buying power to put them on more. So we were all over the place. We were from Long Beach up to Valencia. There were
Right.
pictures
Wow.
of gay dads, very clear in the picture, gay dads with children. And that sort of visual image, if you don't have money for an ad campaign, just sit out in the park and people
Yeah.
will see it. And once you put something out on the web, they'll find you too. I mean,
Yeah.
people Google like crazy to find resources. And I think you don't have to have much of an infrastructure to
Yeah.
become a support group for parents, to be
You can also
a
write to
community.
us at hello@daddysqr.com and we'll put it up for you.
Do you actually have events that are focused more on the prospective parents and events that are more let's stand around and complain about how our lives have turned into a living hell and we're drunk all the time?
We need time for all that. You're right. It changes based on the population of the club, based on who shows up to the meetings even. So,
Right.
for instance, we had this period of time where we were doing all these birthday parties. People would bring their toddlers, maybe like 2 years old to 8. And we had a lot of engagement. We would hire a coach to come and like play with the kids out on the grass with us. We were there and they were kicking the ball back and forth and making goals and throwing things and having a great interactive time in the park, right? We meet inside in our room and then we go out to the park with
Right.
the kids. So that changes with time. So right now we have fewer kids in that age group. We kind of have waves and they kind of work their way up. Once they're in later elementary to middle, they got other things to do. They're in sports on the weekends. Sometimes families will just be gone from Potluck for a while and then they'll come back later. We also happen during nap time. So there are a lot of dads who have these new kids who are sound asleep during that time. If they can sleep in a lap or in a stroller, then they'll bring them. If they can't, then they don't come to the club for a couple
Right.
of years until the kids aren't napping
Yep.
anymore. So it sort of ebbs and flows. And the reality is, I think it's very important to always create a safe space for the people without kids. So every email we ever send reminds them this is also very focused on prospective parenting. So when we march in the Pride Parade, which is what we do every June here in West Hollywood, half of our group doesn't have kids.
Right.
And I want everyone to understand, like, that's part of it. We're on a path. It's not like you just are a member once you get your child,
Yeah.
because the reality is it can take a while. And sometimes it takes much longer than you anticipate. So we don't want people to feel like they only become real once they've got children.
Sure.
We're all leading complicated lives with variables that we can help each other out. So the magic happens when, especially in our monthly support meetings, where like somebody brings their baby and then inevitably something's happening, or they've got twins and they just sort of hand the baby off to the prospective dad next to him and here's the bottle, just hold on. And there's kind of a magic thing that happens because dads without kids, I was one, I remember, you're a little tentative around other people's kids.
Yeah.
I think in a way we've been taught also, like, maybe that's not our expertise. And part of becoming a gay dad really is claiming that. Like, I'm the best dad there is. I mean, this is really, we experience when we go out on our...
You can have that title, by the way, because I am not.
Well, I don't mean to oversell myself. I definitely have some flaws. But the reality is when gay dads show up and we're walking through the mall and a bunch of ladies walk by, inevitably, you've probably heard it, is it Mom's Day off?
Yes, I've heard that
And
for my whole life.
And my answer is... every day is Mom's
Right,
Day.
okay,
Right.
yeah.
So and I got that diaper too. I don't need anybody to change my kid
Right.
for me. Every woman of every age believes that they should step in and just help me change after 4 kids,
Yeah.
I really have the diaper thing figured out, one-handed, and I can, juggle with the other one.
And you're not going to just take advantage of their offer anyway?
Sometimes I do.
Yeah, okay,
Sometimes
good.
like, oh, which part is the Velcro? And I don't know. Oh, is that...
How does your kids behave in these events? Because you're the president
Yeah.
of the club, so they feel like they have some sort of responsibility.
Like Donald Jr.
Oh,
Just-
my God.
Just like
Don't-
that. No, not good?
Don't make
No,
them.
no.
Don't do
This is
that.
the truth.
He's our guest. Don't insult.
The reality is, I think they take it pretty seriously. I've got my kids are 2, 4, 10, and 13.
Wow.
And they've all grown up in public. Since they were babies. And so the 10 and the 13-year-old are kind of like ambassadors. They'll give a tour when the new dads show up. They'll welcome them at the door and say, "Oh, you can put your food over there. We're going to start eating at about 1. Come on, or at 12:30. Come sit over here." We start at 11 o'clock, talk for about 90 minutes, and then start our food. And so my older kids are kind of like hosts.
That's
and they also
great,
love to make friends, and they bring their coolest toys, and they want to see what the other kids bring. So, for them, it's one of the funnest Sundays of the month because they have an instant community and they see the same kids month after month, and they grow up with those kids.
Let me switch gears for a second and ask about the prospective parents again. So it feels like there are some lines where you don't know enough. Maybe you don't know enough. Maybe you shouldn't go into this without knowing more. What is the right thing to do for a prospective parent so that they're in some way capable of making a decision that is, I don't know whether I can even use the term informed, that is a good decision?
That is probably the best question about this endeavor, because I think most of us think, I'll do that when I have got my career solid.
Yeah.
B,
husband.
I'm partnered. C, I've got a great house. I own my house. It's big enough for kids, right? D, I have no problems in the world. Get my desk clear.
Right.
Really,
Whatever those
when
things
are
are.
you going to get there? Who is ever ready?
Right.
And in the heterosexual model, right, babies happen, really. We call this intentional parenting because
Right.
you can't accidentally have children as a gay man. It
Right.
doesn't just
You can try, but it
That's
just
right.
doesn't happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And many do try.
We've tried for a long
regularly,
time.
fervently. But the reality is it's intentional. We make a decision
Yeah.
and we have to take steps. And those steps can often entail money,
Yep.
a lot of money, an investment, a significant financial investment. Not always, because there are routes to becoming a parent that don't cost. Like fostering is like a zero cost essentially, but it still costs to raise children. It's expensive to have children, just like it's expensive to live.
Yeah.
But that is a question always. People come in, they're like, well, we're not sure we're quite ready. And so there's the emotional ready, or the financially ready, or organizationally ready, in your life ready. Are you getting a lot of pressure from the grandparents to be,
Yep.
There are lots of reasons why people show up to a meeting, but there's no way to accidentally become a parent. It's a little different dynamic for us. There's been a lot of research and a lot of emotional preparation. So, what I think our role is, as the seasoned dads in the group, is to let them know, like, your life is going to change.
Right.
We often recommend that people go on trips and to movies and stay out late and do everything they can before the baby shows up.
Right.
Almost like a Rumsprung, is it? That the Amish have. There's this
Where
rite
they
of
roam
passage
around. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like raised in the faith, and then when you turn 16 or 17, you go away for a year and you do everything.
Right.
You smoke and drink and have sex and everything. And then it's your choice to give that up, to go back in. So we were kind of like, go out and do your thing. As much as you can imagine you wouldn't be able to take a baby to, go do that. And once you're satisfied that you're not losing something, because you don't want to be mad at a kid for
Right.
taking
Yeah.
away your West Hollywood life, because
Right.
there is a West Hollywood life
Yeah,
that you
we
can't
love
really
them.
have with children. I mean,
Well,
you
look,
can
so
try to balance it.
I was told everything that you've just said by my brother who has 4 kids, and about 6 months into our twins' lives, I was on the phone with him. He lives in Israel. I was on the phone with him crying hysterically while pushing them around the neighborhood in the stroller. And I said to him, "Why didn't you tell me what this was going to be like?" And he was like, What are you talking about? I told you everything." And I said, "No, you told me, but you weren't like hitting me over the head with the hammer at the same time as you said it." Because my point is, right, that the words, what you just said about go have a good time because blah, 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 who's going to listen, or who can really understand that until they've had the experience?
Especially if somebody hands you their baby while they're busy getting something out of the diaper bag. Because I don't know about you, but there are chemicals that are released for me when I hold a baby. And while I've had so many babies now, I mean like 6 babies that I've been in charge of, and they've all grown out of diapers at this point, thank God. I still have some around, but we don't use them. So
they're waiting for you for about 20 years from
now. I don't
now.
think these are going to fit me, but maybe. Yes, or sooner. But there's something that happens. It's kind of like giving birth. They say that the women go through so much pain, but then they forget it. It's like you have amnesia. The reality is, if you are meant to parent, it's going to override your other senses, your other logical reasoning. I do think.
Stop thinking about yourself.
I am thinking about no. What do you mean? What else? What other frame of reference do I have? I have to say, I don't. We've had a few guests yet so far. I don't know that I've disagreed with one yet. I'm not sure I agree with you. Look, well, first of all, there are plenty of. This is a terrible thing, but there are plenty of parents who fuck it up completely.
Yes.
Right? And those parents actually end up being taken away from their children. So or their children get taken away from them sometimes. So they weren't ready. That's number one. And number two, then there are people who become ready, but they only become ready, 18 months to 2 years after the children are born. Speaking of myself here, because the shock and the lack of preparedness was so profound. I don't know whether there's another way.
Well, look, I agree with you in that not everyone's meant to parent. Not everybody has the skill set, and they may have convinced themselves that that's in their life story, and then they get there and realize they're in over their heads. And that's why part of the preparation is knowing that you have a support network, like a brother who's gone through it, like relatives who will come and stay and help you, and a club of guys around who will help you. I mean, we help each other with childcare too. You know, like we not only recommend great childcare, but we will take a friend's kid. I had a kid live with us for a week because his dad was a teacher and he was taking his 6th graders to DC.
Wow.
So, but that was wonderful because that helped us become closer, and our kids love each other. And so, like, this is a support network helps you get through the reality, which is parenting is not easy. For some people, it's easier than for others. But I do feel that nothing will stop you from becoming a parent if you have this in you. And if it does stop you, you'll be pretty dissatisfied. In your life. I mean, there are a lot of things like that in life. Like, what is my dream? And once you get your finger on that, you know, if you can pinpoint that, there are ways to give you the best advantage going through something that is very difficult. And I will say that it's important to realize that people may have one idea, and they need to be disabused of those ideas. They need to get some reality. So part of Potluck 2 is like letting them experience the tougher part. We don't shy away from the sad stories. I encourage people. I recruit for foster adoption. I mean, I go out and I try to prepare people and get them signed up to go through fostering. And I never hide the story that I was heartbroken when I had to say goodbye to those 2 children. I can add in that it wasn't goodbye. It felt like goodbye, and so in our case it worked, but I can't promise that's going to happen for them. They have to be realistic about it, that this is not easy. Same thing with any approach to like surrogacy. It seems like you're in control of all these variables, but you're not. Things can go wrong. Things can prevent you from being successful in any one of these paths. But I do feel like once you get there, once you've got the kids, all the rest of that just fades away. It doesn't matter how much it costs, how long it took, all your adversity. What really matters is the kid's crying and needs some food.
The new adversity.
And the look on that kid's face as they grow up into your eyes, and you're their everything. I mean, they say kids don't say thanks for raising me, Dad, but actually I think we we have to see those thanks. They do come, and they do actually say it. I have kids old enough to actually thank me for things, and I'm surprised when they do. But I mean, holding a child, knowing that you are that child's link to survival, it's primal, it's real.
Yeah.
And then when they get cut, when they fall down and hurt their knee and they run to you, or like I kiss boo-boos all the time, like somebody gets hurt, it's like, let me kiss it.
Yeah.
And people around me, the adults are like, people without kids, they don't really understand like there's magical thinking. So
Seriously?
let me kiss it.
Yeah.
So wherever that is, I'm gonna kiss it,
Yeah.
and then that kid's fine.
Yeah.
They're totally fine. When a kid is
Yeah.
exhausted, all they have to do is run over, get a little hug from me, and then they're ready to go.
Right.
Again. So that's kind of superpower.
Yeah.
That's a superpower. That's something that I know that as life goes on, things won't be perfect. I know that with 4 kids, we're going to experience some real challenges. We have, but we're going to have more. We're getting into teenage years now. We've got 1 teenager, almost 2. So it's going to be harder, and I may have some more regrets. I'm not saying it comes without regrets either. Not global regrets, but like for specific decisions and things. But I think that what we get back from parenting is so much more than what we give.
So the Poplar currently has on Facebook 446 members. How many of them, by the way, show up to the events?
Not everybody, thank God.
That would be a
We don't
problem.
get them all at once. We have between 15 and 30 people at each potluck meeting, unless we're doing a specific thing. Like quarterly, usually we have a panel discussion about topics that are really current for us. So it might be about school, picking the right school. We do like financial and legal seminars. We have guests come in and talk about, especially before we had marriage equality, how to protect your children, because really you had to do that with contracts.
Right.
Yes.
And then my favorite, Girls 101, because not all gay men know a bunch about girls, about like bubble bath is not good for little baby girls in the tub.
Oh,
Like there are things
yeah.
with vaginas that I didn't understand.
Right.
And now I do.
Our friends had to go through a seminar.
Yeah.
Vagina seminar.
Do you know that that's great? They call it vagina seminar? Because we
no,
we
not.
could call it,
I call it that.
we call it
the
Girls
same-
101, but that's basically what it is.
Right.
And I mean, like even wiping a dirty diaper is different for a girl.
Right.
I mean, you've got to wipe away in a way that with
Yeah.
a boy you don't.
Well,
So-
gay men understand J-Lo and Cher.
They don't have a vagina.
Well, we don't know what they have. We don't actually want to know.
And so anyway, that's a really fun. We have one of our favorite lesbian moms come in and talk turkey about raising our girls,
That's
and
really
it's really great to have that experience. So we get more at that. We'll get 40,
Right.
50 people to that. Our
well, and the
Christmas-
Father's Day thing had to. That
Father's
was big.
Day was 150.
Yeah,
this
that
year.
was great.
It's getting bigger every year. We've had 8 years, and then Santa comes every December. So we've got people with their sonograms and their infants and their 13-year-olds, sitting on Santa's lap. One year
Santa comes to gay households.
Well, he
I
comes
had
to the
no
Pop-Up
idea.
Club meeting.
Oh, okay,
and,
fine.
And we went with Hunky Santa one year, and then just more traditional white-beard Santa, and this year it's Black Santa. So we've got a wide variety of activities throughout the year, and we can have 200 people at those.
Oh, that's great.
For 400 something members, it's very. I mean, on Facebook, it's kind of impressive, but the fact that not everybody comments or really show up to events, is it hard to translate the existence on Facebook into real life actually bond?
It ebbs and flows. I think there have been times where when the board would meet and we'd be like, oh, we need more comments on our Facebook page, we need more activity, we need more people to show up to our meetings, or we need this or that. The reality is we respond to the need, and I'm okay with that. I mean, we always come with enough plates and forks to manage food for 50 people if they show up, or 10 if it's there was a holiday. We had a holiday last month, and so it was small.
Right.
So, I think I've seasoned over the 10 years or so that I've been really engaged with Poplar Club is not to put too much expectation and to just see what comes up through it, and be open to the suggestions and solicit the feedback. So, you guys want to have somebody come and do a bubble show? Okay, how many kids with 3 years and older are ready to bring their kid? Commit, and then
Right.
we'll do it, because we're a nonprofit. We raise money. We have money. We can. Our means are very minimal, are simple, but we can afford to pay somebody to come in and do a show. And so once we get the feedback, that's what they want. We do it. So there are almost 500 Facebook members. We have about 1,000 on our Yahoo group. And we haven't done a survey for a while, but 3 years ago, we reached our 500th kid that came through Potluck.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, from that first one baby who was born to Andrew Rakos. He runs Fountain Day School here in West Hollywood. He is amazing with children. He's also amazing with an 18-year-old because that's the first baby through Potluck Club. Now, we've also had, this reminds me of what you asked earlier about maybe not being prepared for parenthood. There are plenty of dads. I can see it coming in the door. They do not want infants. And that's great because there are so many kids in the foster care system who are already 3 or are already 10. And believe it or not, there are dads who come to, prospective dads who come to us in their 50s, 60s. And they're like, I want a parent, but I don't want to be 80 when my kid graduates from high school. In which case,
trained. They have to be toilet trained.
We connect them.
That's not the bad
We
thing.
connect them with the foster youth who are, in many cases, LGBT and very hard to place because gay kids pop out of foster care all the time. It's ugly. It's not right. It's wrong for foster families to do it, but it happens.
Yeah.
These kids basically get pushed out of their foster homes. So Raise a Child is really a great partner in this. But Potluck, we regularly get messages about a 16-year-old or a 13-year-old who needs a place, and they need a family that's not going to judge them.
Yeah.
And we're the right place.
Yeah.
We got a lot of people who are ready for that.
That's great.
Thank you so much, John. It's been a very insightful conversation.
Thanks for having me, and I
great.
love your podcast. It's really
thank you.
informative and it's engaging. I've subscribed.
Thank you.
And
Well,
so-
we want
great.
you and everybody who listens to, well, you don't have to do it via email, but everyone else does, hello@daddysqr.com, to tell us how we should do more, what we should do. We really want input about how to make this useful and fun and something that you'll listen to in the car on the way to work instead of politics, because politics is doomed, whereas parenthood is not.
I'm really glad your audience is growing because there is an audience out there for this. I'm really excited to see it grow.
Awesome.
Hello,
Thank you.
Dublin.
All right, Dublin, yes.
Bye.
All right.
That was John. Alex, did you have some notes?
Oh, I took notes.
Oh,
of course
good.
I took notes. I thought that there were a few things that really fascinated me. What I talked about earlier on before the interview about how different it was to hear his description of the fostering process and fostering and adoption process from the way we did it, I think is amazing. And I would love to hear from our listeners about the different ways that children have ended up in their lives, because the comparison between those experiences is fascinating to me. I liked really the discussion that we had about whether or not, how do you find out whether you're ready to have kids, you know, there's a little bit of conflict there. I don't think it's really conflict, but I do think that the notion that everyone should have them is probably not true. I don't know how you find out, but one thing is for sure, I love the balance in Potluck Club between people who have kids and people who are thinking of having
Yeah, I wanted
kids.
to kind of really touch extensively on that because the prospective dad parents, this was something that enlightened me in a way. We should start thinking of it this way, that prospective dads are part of our community even before they have kids. So you become part of this gay dads community when you decide you want to have kids. So that puts you on a path that you'll end up, being a gay dad. But it doesn't matter where are you on this path. But since you want to start or you want to join the community, you are part of it. And I think that's lovely. And it's really good, especially for prospective dads who want to, like he said, get all of the information they need in order to decide what to do.
Sure.
And how to do it.
Whether to do it.
Yes.
Yep.
So I think we should include them in our community too.
I think so too. And I think,
High
by the way,
prospective dads.
we should probably put a little bit of energy ourselves into taking advantage of Potluck Club more than we do.
Yeah.
We've been, I think, 3 times to 3 different events. One before the kids were born, actually, and then 2 since then, and I think we should do more of that.
Yes, but we also have a mini gay dads group of ourselves.
Of our own, yeah.
So, and I want to give that as a kind of idea to our listeners too. If you don't have a group in your own environment, even if you start with 2 couples, you and another couple, that's already a group.
It's huge.
So we met another gay couple like this, and then they knew another gay couple. So we started as a 3 couples group on a WhatsApp.
Yep.
That was so easy, and it still is. It's growing. Like
Yep.
we're adding more and more couples, so it's very easy to kind of plan things together, and to ask each other questions.
About teething gel.
And run comments.
Yeah, and I think that, it's different. This is much more about socializing than the kind of things that the Potluck Club does, but I think that all of these are valuable, and the ultimate takeaway of all of it is, it's not a good idea to do parenting alone.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Last thing I want to mention is the dad superpowers. That's so cute that he talked about that.
Yeah.
Mwah, I'll kiss it. I'll kiss it. So, yes, we have superpowers, and it's great, and it's amazing, and it's wonderful, and it's so true. Use them. Last thing that we're going to do before you go is the Sage Advice. It's a new section, small and sweet at the end, where we give you stupid advice. Stupid?
No.
Alex, do you want to introduce that?
I would love to, had I actually been prepared for this, which I was not. If you'll give me 20 seconds, I will think of my
I'll give mine sage
advice.
advice. I'll tell you a story. So our kids had a day this week on Monday when they didn't want to go to school. And we didn't know what to do. We took them crying and screaming, and then we met a teacher,
Sarah,
thank you, Sarah, who gave us this wonderful idea of creating a book that they can flip through and kind of understand the process through pictures. So the next day, I documented the process of going to school, getting up, picture, drinking milk, picture, getting dressed, picture, like took pictures of all the steps on the way that we did. I sent them to Shutterfly, and I really recommend to use Shutterfly. It doesn't have to be, by the way, on going to school. It could be on anywhere, like going to the bath, whatever. If they don't like to do something, you take all these pictures, you arrange them in a book, print it on Shutterfly. We got it Thursday, and it was great. And seeing it as a book, I think it's very helpful, and it's kind of made them feel like they're famous. I don't know.
Right.
Like
they are the story. Yeah. I thought that was brilliant advice. Thank you, Sarah.
Yes.
And mine is this. It's a little fuzzier. A lot of people who become parents, especially when their kids start to talk, think that everything that the child asks or asks for, the answer has to be clear. You know, I want a cookie. I want to play with the razor blades. And the answer has to be yes or no. And so I went by that model for quite a while. And then I started to see how my husband, Jan, was doing it. And I realized that there is a lot of power in, I don't want to call it lying. That's so ugly. There's a lot of power in softening your answer to say things like, maybe we'll do it later, or maybe, or later, things like that don't immediately cause this kind of challenge and reaction. And while on one hand, I really want my kids to become more comfortable with yes and no, I think that there are times where that's a good thing. And there are other times where all you're doing is setting up conflict where there really is no need. So get a little bit more comfortable with saying maybe later.
So that's it for this week. Please rate and review us to increase the visibility of this podcast and help reach all those dads and maybe gay men who think about becoming dads. I know you don't like that I'm reading this, but
he's actually in the position of shaking pom-poms with his arms out right now while he reads it.
Woo!
Hey, also, who did the music that we're using for the podcast? You don't remember, do you?
No, it's on the page every week.
Well, thank you.
hello@daddysqr.com.
Thanks, guys.
Write us. Hey, Alex, bye.
Oh, didn't I say goodbye?
Yeah, we never say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.